Something snapped on live TV, and nobody in that studio was ready for it. Before we dive into the video, please like and subscribe and comment. Now let's get back to the video. What happens when one of Hollywood's most intense actors walks into a live interview already on edge, and the hosts don't realize they're standing in front of a ticking fuse? You're about to see how a normal guest spot turns into a public blow-up so fast it feels unreal. This wasn't a harmless, awkward moment or a little attitude problem. This turned into a full-scale on-air clash that had the room freezing up and the control booth scrambling. It was supposed to be simple. Tom Hardy was booked for a standard segment on The View to promote his latest film. Nothing more than the usual publicity routine actors do all the time. The studio that morning looked normal too. Crew moving around, hosts checking notes, everyone assuming they were in for a smooth, friendly chat. Joy Behar, known for pushing conversations in sharp directions, had prepared what she believed were fair questions about his career, his roles, and how he approaches his work. On paper, it was a safe plan, the kind of segment that's designed to stay upbeat and controlled. But the problem was the version of Tom Hardy who showed up that day. From the second he walked in, multiple people could feel something was off. He wasn't doing the usual light small talk, he wasn't smiling for the crew, and even basic questions were met with short, clipped answers that felt like warnings. Then the cameras rolled, and Joy opened with a friendly welcome, trying to keep it bright. "Tom, welcome to The View," she said, smiling. "We're so excited to have you here today to talk about your new film." Hardy didn't ease into it. He hit back immediately. "Are we really going to pretend this is about the film Joy? Because I've seen your show and I know exactly what this is about." The other hosts exchanged looks like they'd just been blindsided. Joy tried to stay calm and steer it back to safer ground, because that's what experienced hosts do when the first line already feels like a threat. "Well, of course, we want to hear about your new project," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "But our viewers are always interested in getting to know the person behind the performances. That's what makes for engaging television." Hardy repeated her phrase like it disgusted him. "Engaging television," he echoed with open contempt. "Is that what you call it when you ambush guests with personal questions they never agreed to discuss? When you dig into their private lives for ratings?" Joy's expression tightened, but she stayed professional. "Tom, I'm not sure what you're referring to. We haven't asked you any personal questions yet. We literally just welcomed you to the show." Hardy leaned forward, sharper now, pushing the tension right into the studio. Don't play dumb with me," he fired back. "I know you've been researching my personal life, my relationships, my family. That's not what I'm here for, and I won't sit here and be your entertainment." At that point, the mood in the room changed completely. Camera operators subtly adjusted positions because they could feel this was turning into something they couldn't control. The audience, which started excited, got quiet in that uneasy way that happens when people realize they're watching a situation go bad in real time. Joy tried again to reset the tone without escalating. "Tom, I genuinely don't know what research you're talking about," she said, still measured. "Our producers sent your publicist a standard list of topics we might cover. Nothing unusual, nothing invasive, just the kind of conversation we have with all our guests." Hardy let out a harsh laugh that didn't sound amused at all. "Standard topics, right?" he snapped. "Tell me, Joy, what's standard about asking an actor about his rehab stint from 15 years ago? What's standard about bringing up custody battles that were sealed by the court?" Now Joy looked genuinely confused, and she glanced off camera toward the producers, like she was trying to confirm what she already believed. "Tom, those topics aren't on our list," she insisted. "I don't know where you're getting this information, but we had no intention of discussing anything like that." Hardy's reply cut straight through the studio like a blade. "Liar," he said flatly. "You people are all the same. You smile and pretend to be supportive, but all you want is dirt. All you want is drama. Well, congratulations, Joy. You're getting your drama today. That's when it stopped being a celebrity interview and started feeling like a confrontation with no breaks. The audience sat frozen, caught between fascination and discomfort, because nobody expects a guest to come out swinging like this on daytime TV. Joy took a breath and tried one more time to pull the show back onto the rails. Tom, I think there might be some miscommunication here, she said. Why don't we take a step back and talk about what you actually came here to discuss? Tell us about your new film, the character you're playing. What drew you to the project? But Hardy didn't step back. He pushed harder. Miscommunication, he repeated, almost mocking her. That's rich, coming from someone who's built her entire career on miscommunications that somehow always end up making her guests look bad. Joy's composure finally showed cracks, because that wasn't just tension anymore. It was an accusation on live television. That's not fair, Tom, she replied. I've been doing this job for decades, and I've always treated my guests with respect. I don't know what's gotten into you today, but this hostility is completely uncalled for. Hardy suddenly stood up, and that movement alone changed the entire power dynamic in the room. Crew members stiffened, the audience shifted in their seats, and you could feel the "what is he about to do" panic spreading. Uncalled for? He barked. You want to know what's uncalled for? Inviting someone onto your show under false pretenses, lying about your intentions, using people's vulnerabilities for cheap television. Joy's patience finally ran thin, and her voice got firmer. Sit down, Tom, she said. You're making a scene over absolutely nothing. We invited you here in good faith to promote your work, and you're turning it into some kind of conspiracy theory. Good faith? Hardy's voice rose, louder, sharper, filling the studio. There's nothing good about what you do here, Joy. You tear people down for entertainment. You exploit personal struggles for ratings. You're everything that's wrong with this industry, and I'm sick of pretending otherwise. At this point, the other hosts looked trapped between intervening and making it worse. The air had that charged feeling where one wrong sentence can set off the next explosion, and everyone knew it. And just as the tension hit that dangerous edge, the show was seconds away from crossing a line it couldn't uncross, because Hardy wasn't calming down and Joy wasn't backing off. The moment Hardy stood there, towering over the table, the entire studio seemed to shrink around him. What had started as verbal tension now felt physical, even if no one had touched anyone yet. The audience could sense it too, that instinctive feeling that something had gone seriously wrong and there was no easy way back. Joy tried to reassert control, but her voice carried a sharp edge now. Tom, you're making a scene, she said firmly. This is live television, and you're accusing us of things that aren't true. Hardy didn't sit back down. Instead, he looked around the set like he was finally seeing it clearly for the first time. Live television, he said slowly. That's exactly the problem. You hide behind that excuse, like it gives you permission to do whatever you want. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward slightly, clearly preparing to step in before things went completely off the rails. Tom, she said, trying to sound calm, I think we all need to slow this down. Whatever you're feeling right now, this isn't the place for it. Hardy snapped his head toward her, his focus locking in. Not the place? He shot back. You make this the place every single day. You invite people here, poke at their lives, twist their words, and then act shocked when someone finally pushes back. The audience murmured quietly, unsure whether they were allowed to react at all. Camera operators adjusted again, sensing this was no longer a segment, but an unfolding incident. Whoopi's tone hardened slightly. You're being disrespectful, she said. You're a guest here, and there are people watching, including families. Hardy scoffed. Disrespectful, he replied. You want to talk about disrespect? How about the way you gang up on people who don't agree with you? How about the way you pretend this is conversation when it's really pressure? That word hung in the air, pressure, and it seemed to strike a nerve with everyone on set. Joy jumped back in, visibly irritated now. "That's enough," she said. "You don't get to come onto our show and rewrite what we do just because you're angry today." Hardy laughed, but there was nothing light about it. "Angry today," he repeated. "This isn't about today. This is about years of watching this circus and pretending it's harmless." Joy stood up, matching his posture, and the studio collectively held its breath. "Circus?" she fired back. "You're the one turning this into a spectacle. You came here to promote a movie, and instead you're accusing everyone in this room of being villains." Hardy took a step closer to the table, his voice dropping but somehow becoming more intense. "Because someone needs to say it," he replied. "You sit here every day acting like moral judges, tearing people apart for applause." Sarah Haynes finally spoke up, her voice cautious but sincere. "Tom, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. We can reset this. We can start over." Hardy turned to her sharply. "Start over?" he said. "There's no starting over when the masks are already off. This is who you are when someone refuses to play along." Joy shot back instantly. "The only mask coming off here is yours," she said. "And what's underneath isn't impressive. It's hostile, it's aggressive, and it's completely unnecessary." "At least it's real," Hardy replied. "At least I'm not pretending to care while exploiting people for a reaction." The audience shifted again, some people glancing toward the exits, others lifting phones slightly before thinking better of it. This was no longer entertainment. It was discomfort unfolding live. Joy's frustration boiled over. "You're embarrassing yourself," she said. "You think you're exposing something, but all you're doing is proving you can't handle a basic interview." Hardy's eyes narrowed. "Embarrassing?" he echoed. "What's embarrassing is how long you've gotten away with this without anyone calling it out." Whoopi raised her voice now, stepping fully into the confrontation. "Enough," she said. "You don't get to attack us and act like you're some kind of hero. This is inappropriate behavior, and you know it." The word inappropriate seemed to flip another switch. Hardy slammed his hand down on the table, causing cups to rattle and liquid to spill across the surface. The sound echoed through the studio, sharp and shocking. "Inappropriate?" he shouted. "You think this is inappropriate? What you do here every day is inappropriate. You feed off people's pain and call it conversation." Joy recoiled slightly, but fired back immediately. "I've interviewed thousands of people," she said, "and I've never seen someone behave like this. Whatever you're dealing with, don't dump it on us." "Don't psychoanalyze me," Hardy snapped. "My personal struggles are none of your business. But the way you twist stories, the way you damage reputations, that's everyone's business." Sarah tried again, her voice shaking now. "Tom, please, you're scaring people. This isn't helping anyone." Hardy spun toward her. "You sit here every day nodding along while this happens," he said. "You're not innocent in this. None of you are." At that moment, movement appeared at the edges of the set. Security had begun to inch closer, uncertain, but clearly alerted. The tension was so thick it felt like a single spark could set it all off. "You want to know what's really wrong?" Hardy continued, pacing slightly now. "What's wrong is giving shows like this the power to decide who's good, who's bad, who gets applause, and who gets destroyed." Joy raised her voice toward the control booth. "This is out of control," she said sharply. "He needs to leave." Hardy stopped pacing and looked straight at her. "Your set?" he said. "This isn't your set. This is a platform you've been handed, and you've abused it for years." Joy's face flushed, and for the first time she looked genuinely shaken. "Are you threatening me?" she asked quietly. Hardy smiled, cold and deliberate. "I'm not threatening anyone," he said. "I'm stating facts. Facts about how fast things change in this industry. Facts about how quickly careers fall apart." Whoopi stood up abruptly. "That's enough," she said. "You don't get to imply things like that. You don't get to intimidate people on live television." Hardy laughed again, sharp and humorless. "Intimidate?" he replied. "I don't need to do anything. You're already doing it to yourselves." Security was now directly behind him, close enough for the audience to notice. The hosts looked rattled, the producers unseen, but clearly panicking, and the cameras kept rolling as if frozen by the moment. Joy gathered herself and snapped back with fury. "You think this ends well for you?" she said. "When people see this, they'll see exactly who lost control today." Hardy tilted his head slightly, almost amused. "That's fine," he said. "My reputation is built on intensity, but yours is built on control. And right now, you don't have it." The room went dead silent after that line, because everyone felt the truth in it, whether they wanted to or not. The balance had shifted, and no one knew how. This was going to end anymore. Joy snapped back to the moment, her voice sharp and final. "Security, that's it. Get him out of here," she said, pointing directly at Hardy. "This show is done entertaining this behavior." The word security landed like a trigger. Hardy's expression changed, not louder this time, but colder, more deliberate. "Of course," he said slowly. "When someone won't play along, you remove them. That's always been your move." As security stepped closer, Hardy raised his voice, just enough for the cameras to catch every word. "You want the audience to think I lost control," he said. "But what really scares you is that I didn't." Joy fired back instantly. "What scares me is watching a grown man implode on live television and call it honesty." Hardy shook his head, almost disappointed. "No, Joy," he replied. "What scares you is that people are finally seeing what happens when someone refuses to be managed." Security placed a hand near his arm, and Hardy didn't resist, but he didn't stop talking either. "You built this place on control," he continued. "Control the topic, control the guest, control the reaction, and the second that breaks, you call it a crisis." Whoopi stepped forward again, visibly angry now. "You crossed a line," she said. "You don't get to come in here and attack everyone and pretend you're exposing some truth." Hardy looked directly at her. "Truth doesn't need permission," he said, "and it definitely doesn't need a daytime approval stamp." The audience sat frozen as security began escorting him away. Hardy turned back one last time, locking eyes with Joy as the cameras followed. "You'll cut this however you want," he said. "You'll frame it, however helps you sleep. But once people see the unedited clips, this won't go the way you think." Joy stood stiff, her jaw tight. "This is over," she said. "You've embarrassed yourself and wasted everyone's time." Hardy laughed quietly as he was guided toward the exit. "That's the difference between us," he replied. "I can walk away from this. You have to come back tomorrow and pretend it never happened." The studio fell into an eerie silence once he was gone. No applause, no chatter, just the uncomfortable awareness that something had cracked on live television. Joy turned back to the table, visibly shaken but trying to regain composure. "We're going to take a break," she said flatly, "and when we come back, we'll continue with the show." But the damage was already done. Clips flooded social media within minutes. Fans arguing over who really lost control and who was finally called out. Some said Hardy spiraled. Others said he exposed something people weren't supposed to see. And that's the part no one could agree on. Was this a meltdown? Or was it a moment where the script broke and the mask slipped? Because long after the cameras cut, one question refused to go away. Did Tom Hardy destroy his reputation? Or did he just say out loud what everyone else was too careful to admit?